Hey, it's Klayton, and I've been getting a lot of questions about the Circle of Dust re-releases. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go to facebook.com/Circle of Dust Official or circleofdust.net and you'll get all the information you need. But Circle of Dust was me before I was Celldweller. So Circle of Dust is what I used to practice to become Celldweller, and I did a bunch of albums as Circle of Dust for another label, and for a few decades haven't owned those albums, and only recently bought back those rights, and I'm now remastering and re-releasing all of that content plus a bunch of unreleased stuff you guys have never heard. And the best part about it for me, and hopefully for you, is I am producing a brand new from scratch Circle of Dust album due out in 2016. Let's cover the mastering, the remastering of the old stuff, because people don't really necessarily understand what that actually means. And so when this album, which is Brainchild, I'm going to use the song Deviate as an example because it was already pulled up and I already have a few things I'd like to show you. But this album came out in '94 originally, which means I probably recorded it sometime in '93. I didn't record it in my own studio. I recorded it in some studio in Nashville. I can't remember really many of the details, but I had very little control except that I programmed the whole record, wrote the whole record, stood there and played and performed the whole record, but I didn't record it, mix it. I really had very little input. I wasn't allowed. I was told to sit in the back of the room and be quiet, which is probably not what I did. Here I actually have, I very recently went back to my old Ensoniq sampler, which I love, which is down here, and I cracked out all the old discs for the song Deviate, and I actually recorded in all of the raw tracks, the original tracks from the Deviate song. So if I really wanted to, I could remix this song from scratch. I could start from scratch and just do a new version of this. I don't want to do that. That's way too much work. Not interested. I'd really rather spend my time writing new material. But I do have it here. Just
there's a man back there dead with a shotgun blast.
Who's got the shotgun?
So some of you old school fans will recognize that stuff. And here it is all broken out into its individual tracks. The only person in the world that actually has this is Brett from Blue Stolly, because he is right now working on a remix for Deviate, which I can't wait to hear, and I'm sure you can't either. So that really has very little to do with the remastering, but there is something in here that I want to show you when it comes to the actual guitar tone. But I'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about the actual master itself. So if you listen to the original Deviate master, which is was released in '94, it sounds like this.
He shot, guy shot.
So that sounds fine because you're listening to it at that volume. Let me show you what it sounds like right now. That's after remastering. So you can already tell it's brighter, it's more present, it's much louder, and sounds actually much better. So we kind of have gone in and pulled out a lot of those really harsh frequencies that were in the guitar tones, which again, I had very little control over the guitar tones. I just played, I didn't mic it up or record it. And we did our best to salvage the sound of the recording, but make it sound modern, make it sound good, and actually, hopefully, listenable. Because for me, those old recordings are pretty hard to listen to. I'm going to A-B, A being the original and B being the newly remastered mix. And you're going to see on the screen as I switch between these masters. In fact, let me color this one so it's obvious that they're different. You're going to see them switch on the screen and hear the difference between the original and the newly remastered. So here, we're going to start. I'm just going to loop a section. We're going to start with the original, and you'll see me flip back and forth between them. So you can hear there's a pretty considerable difference. The people on the inside here who know the old catalog, like Brett from Blue Stolly and James Rhodes, who's general manages Fixed, they are really familiar with the old catalog, and as they're hearing these newly remastered mixes, they're going, we're hearing things in these mixes we never even knew were there. There's things coming out of these mixes that we never heard before. And part of that is because we're brightening up the top end, and there's much more clarity in these mixes than there used to be. So I'm even hearing things that I had forgotten I'd put in these tracks. So if I were to bring the original master, the one that came out in '94, bring the volume of that up to kind of match the level of the newly remastered volume in a section on Deviate, you'll still hear that although the volumes kind of are the same, there's still a pretty considerable difference in the clarity and kind of what you're hearing. So again, I'm going to play a little piece of the original first, and I'm going to switch back and forth between that and the newly remastered one. And if you have a decently discerning ear, you'll be able to tell the difference between the two. So let's take a listen. So as you can hear, they're in the relative ballpark as far as volume is concerned, but the frequencies are completely different. The new masters sound wider, clearer, hopefully don't make your ears bleed as much as they've made mine bleed over the years. And in general, this is across all the albums. So all of my albums, all of the old albums, which would be the self-titled Circle of Dust Brainchild, Metamorphosis, which is the remix album, which will include also my remixes that I did for Living Sacrifice, which I'm really proud of because I worked really hard on those. The Argyle Park album and the Disengage album. All of those in their existing original forms are going to be remastered and re-released, and including, from what I've calculated so far, over 5 hours of bonus content. So things that you guys have never even heard before. Alternate mixes, demos, alternate versions of songs, instrumentals, acoustic versions, remixes, things that really have been just locked down in my archives.
Seem to be having a problem here.
So I showed you that I have the raw tracks from the Deviate song kind of captured from my old Sonic sampler. Part of the reason I wanted to show you this, although this doesn't really affect the remastered version of the original because I'm not remixing the track, but I want to show you a pretty cool piece of magic, which I am applying actually to some other songs that I'm resurrecting. This is the original guitar from Deviate. This is what it sounds like. Now, I had very little to do with that guitar tone. I just showed up and played. Back then, I wasn't really allowed to have much say in that. Now that I do have say and can do whatever I want, I started going, how could I knew I was giving these files to Brett from Blue Stolly to do a remix, and I'm like, I don't want to give him these turdy sounding guitar tracks. I'd like to fix them up if I can. How do I do that? Well, I know exactly how I'm going to do that. I'm going to use one of my favorite plugins of all time, which is the FabFilter Pro Q2 equalizer plugin. I love it. It's great. It's in every track. It's basically the only equalizer I use. And why would I use an equalizer? Not because I want to go in and figure out guitar frequencies and hone in on it by using my ear. I'm going to actually use one of my modern guitar tones to impose those frequencies onto this old guitar tone and see what happens. And I'll show you what that means. So when I listen to this guitar tone from the original album, it hurts my ears. I can't hear any of the information. It's kind of equated to like as if you took, it's like somebody like Snake Plissken, right? And you had like somebody like Godzilla, and then you took them and you took Godzilla and you just like, and so they're in space and flying by Jupiter and the guitar tone and the blood coming out of your ears. That's what that guitar tone, that's how it feels to me. I want to take my modern guitar tone and figure out how to use that guitar tone, which here is my guitar tone from the Machines of Our Disgrace, which you guys haven't heard. You've heard a preview online, but the song is not out yet. So it's much brighter. You can hear the note values, etc., right? So what I do on my original crappy sounding guitar track, I instantiate a Pro Q2 equalizer, and I'm going to go down here and I'm going to put this in EQ match mode. And what that does is I'm sending from the Machines of Our Disgrace guitar, I'm sending that signal into this EQ, and it's analyzing the frequencies from the Machines of Our Disgrace guitar, while it's also analyzing the frequencies from the guitar from Deviate, the original guitar. So it's analyzing them both at the same time. So when I hit play, you're seeing two graphs. One is the Machines of Our Disgrace guitar, and the other one is actually the old school Deviate guitar. And the plugin is trying to figure out, okay, what am I doing here? How do I match one frequency to the other? So when I stop it, I've got these awesome looking graphs here, and I just hit this match button, and now all of a sudden I have that actual EQ curve on my Deviate guitars. So listen to what happens to those muddy, crappy sounding guitars, they sound much more like my modern guitars. Now, because this came off an old DAT tape, there's a lot of clicking because there was some digital noise that was recorded in with the DAT, probably from a different DAT machine. The heads were off, who knows? So I have to fix that, which I'll show you in a second. But right here, this slider is amazing that FabFilter has incorporated into the Pro Q2, which allows me to dial in more or less of this EQ curve. So listen to the difference. Further over to the left I go, the more it actually dials back in the original sound. So I can find that sweet spot to where the guitar tone sounds pleasant to my ears, which is right around the middle, and I will hit finish. And now I have this beautiful curve on my screen that's being applied to the original DV8 guitar. So if I bypass the Pro Q2, ears bleeding. If I put the Pro Q2 back in, hearing restored. So now I've got these clicks which are driving me crazy, and a great way to fix that is this Isotope RX2 declicker. And if I put that in, I don't even really need to do anything. I hit play, and for the most part, most of the clicks are gone. If I say output clicks only by clicking this little checkbox, you're going to hear only what the plugin is detecting as the clicks in the audio. That's pretty obnoxious. So what I did for all of these guitar tracks is I applied the Pro Q EQ to those old guitar tracks, and then I fixed them using this declicker, the Isotope RX2, and now I've got completely restored guitar tracks that I've now passed on to Brett from Blue Stolly. So when you hear his remix of DV8, those guitars sound awesome compared to the originals. And I hope that you guys are going to love the crap out of them. There's a lot coming, so stick around. Every 8 weeks, one of these is being re-released with all this additional content, so check in at circleofdust.net or facebook.com/circleofdustofficial.